So using my gaming scoring system, I would have to give it a 1.2 out of 10.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Today we're doing something that I really like doing here on the channel, and that is looking at a very bad game review. The game review we're going to be looking at today is of Sekiro, and basically the guy says the game sucks because it's too hard, and he even straight up spreads misinformation about the game, which is pretty funny. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into this. The video that we're taking a look at today is called Why I Hate Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, and the thumbnail says do not buy. So let's go ahead and find out why this guy hates Sekiro and why you shouldn't buy it.
Hello, welcome back to a new video game review. So recently I've been playing Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. It's kind of like a Japanese ninja samurai action game.
Okay, that's one way to explain it, I guess.
And as an avid fan of Japanese culture and anime and pretty much all things Japan, I thought I would absolutely love this. Unfortunately, I really did not enjoy any of this game. This has probably been one of the most frustrating, annoying games I have ever had the displeasure and misfortune to have to play.
He's explaining playing a video game as if it's like contracting a terminal illness.
So straight off the bat, as soon as you start the game, it's already annoying because even though I'm playing on PC, all of the control layout seems to be on controller, and it's telling you the button layouts and buttons controls as if you were using a controller. So it would say press A to jump, press X to roll, press right trigger to use item, when I don't have any of these buttons, and I don't know what right trigger is or X is or E is or A is because I'm playing with a keyboard and mouse. So I had to kind of guess what all of the buttons had. It's just really lazy game design because they don't even bother to change the control scheme layout to the keyboard and mouse, even though it's obvious I'm playing on a PC.
So I loaded up Sekiro for myself to see if this was true, playing with the keyboard, and yes, it showed controller icons. Now, this would be really bad if it weren't for the fact that you can simply go into your settings and change the prompts on your screen to be either a keyboard or a controller. As you can see, you just go down to Input Device Options and Device for on-screen prompts. You can pick either controller or keyboard. As you can see, I have the keyboard icons on my screen. You really shouldn't have left this out of your video because it makes it look extremely disingenuous, kind of like you're implying that there's no way to have keyboard prompts on your screen, when in reality all you have to do is go into your settings and change the icons. The reason why they defaulted to a controller instead of a keyboard and mouse is because the majority of people play Souls games on a controller.
And maybe you would say you're supposed to play the game using a controller. Well, I don't want to use a controller, and if I don't have a controller plugged in, it should recognize that and then tell me which buttons I have to press using a keyboard. So after fumbling around for 15 minutes trying to figure out the stupid controls...
So you mean to tell me, instead of going into your settings and saying, is there a way I can make it show keyboard prompts on the screen instead of a controller, you spent 15 minutes just guessing the controls? Dude, I feel bad for this guy. In fact, I think the first thing you should do when you play any game is go into your settings and have a look at what you can change in there, because, you know, you might see some control schemes that you like better, you might see some graphic settings that you might want to change, there's tons of different things you might want to tweak. All I'm gonna say, dude, is we're not off to a very good start.
I finally found out how to do basic attacks, dodging, and stuff like that. And the swordplay gameplay mechanics in the game are just not very fun. It's very unresponsive, very sluggish. Fighting the enemies didn't really feel like an enjoyable activity.
Well, I mean, if you didn't enjoy it, that's subjective, you don't have to enjoy it, but to say it's unresponsive and sluggish is a straight up lie, because this is the fastest From Software game I've ever played, maybe not counting the Armored Core series. The second you hit that deflect button, it deflects. It is very responsive. And speaking of sluggish, compare this to a game like Dark Souls 1 or 2, which were way more sluggish than this. I mean, Dark Souls 2 had a whole half a second delay on all your movements. Anyone who's played Dark Souls 2 knows what I'm talking about.
So the main character in the game, he moves very slowly and unresponsively, very annoying to jump and grab onto edges, very annoying to try and get a lock on the enemy.
What do you mean annoying to lock onto an enemy? All you gotta do is face the enemy and click in on the right thumbstick if you're using an Xbox or PlayStation controller, and I'm not really sure what the button would be on a keyboard, but I'm pretty sure it's probably simple. Then if you're locked onto an enemy, and let's say you want to lock onto a different enemy, you simply flick the control stick in the direction of the other enemy you want to lock onto, and it switches over to that one.
And very unresponsive when you're doing blocking and dodging and parrying.
The parrying is literally split second. The second you hit that button, your parry comes out. So to say it's unresponsive is a flat out lie.
I mean, he's supposed to be an agile ninja warrior and he moves like a granny. I don't know why he's so slow. And the whole sword combat fighting system is very, very basic.
Well, not really, because there's entire skill trees to fill out, and you can get these different prosthetic arms that, like, one is like a flame vent, you can get like a loaded axe, shuriken, stuff like that.
You don't really have combos or special moves.
You can literally unlock special moves in the skill trees, and I mean, the prosthetic arms are kind of like special moves, but I mean, there are actual special moves in the skill trees. As you can see here, Combat Arts, this is Whirlwind Slash. That is a special move that you can unlock with your skill tree, and it does like these 2 slashes midair. See, things like this is why it's so important to actually play through a game before you give a review of it, because I mean, you're saying things that are factually wrong. There are special moves in the game.
You've got like a light attack and then a heavy attack that you charge up by holding down the mouse button. And then you can parry and do a counter attack, and you can also roll around. And there's also kind of like a stealth element. You can sneak around and you can do a backstab which instantly takes down an enemy. And this is all great and good and everything, but the frustrating thing to the combat is it only takes a couple of strikes to take you down.
That's why things such as healing items and upgrades to your health exist. Also, it's important to constantly be blocking. If you don't think you can time a parry correctly, just hold the block button and take the posture damage instead of taking the damage to your health. I mean, you are playing a From Software game, and From Software games are known to be very unforgiving. You're gonna have to master the game if you want to beat it.
So you might get quite far in the game, and then you get taken down by a couple unlucky hits that you were not able to block or parry.
You can block and parry pretty much every attack in this game. You can block and parry bullets. I mean, the only thing that you can't block and parry are certain moves that'll have this red icon that'll come above them before they happen. And that pretty much like lets you know to either use a counter attack or jump away from it.
And then you got to start all the way back from where you came from.
Runbacks are pretty much non-existent in this game. If you die to a boss, you barely spend any time running back to it because pretty much every single boss has a checkpoint right outside of it. This is much different than a game like Dark Souls 2, where the boss runbacks are so bad I'd rather stick my nuts in a waffle iron. I mean, holy fuck, does anyone remember the blue smelter demon runback? That was harder than the actual fight.
The bosses in the game are also really annoying. Basically, they've got this kind of health bar, which is not really a health bar. It's just the stamina bar, and you keep hitting them, and eventually the stamina bar goes up.
It's a posture bar, not a stamina bar, but, you know, same kind of idea. But they do have a health bar as well, so if you can't break their posture, you can still, like, whittle their health down and kill them that way. It's best to avoid using this strategy, though, only if you have to with, like, the Chained Ogre, or I think, like, the Demon of Hatred.
And when it's full, then they can't block anymore, and then they'll kind of collapse to the ground, then you can do a special.
I mean, I hate to roast your gameplay here, but you're not even locking on to the enemy. How do you seriously expect to get anywhere? You're making a review of this game, but you don't understand the basic fundamentals, such as locking on to enemies that you're fighting.
Move on them. And usually you have to do this twice on each boss. The problem is the bosses can 2-hit take you down most of the time.
That's why it's always important to keep your block up and only let it down if you're about to parry.
And there's also platforming in the game. You get this grappling hook.
I'd just like to bring up the fact that right there the game told you to lock on and yet you still don't do it. You're ignoring what the game is trying to teach you. So it's not the game's fault that you're struggling so hard with it.
And then you just kind of swing around like you're Spider-Man. And that's all there is to the game, really. You got a bit of platforming, climbing up ledges, sneaking up buildings, and then you've got very basic bare bones ninja samurai kind of sword fighting, which I was not very impressed with. Now, if I had to compliment the game, I do like the atmosphere and the art style, and the voice acting is very good. As someone who knows Japanese and is fluent, I didn't really have too much of a problem understanding the Japanese without any subtitles. It's just because the game's set in the olden days and they do speak a little bit differently back then in the samurai times. But apart from, you know, the weird old-fashioned way of speaking, which was sometimes a little bit difficult to understand, I reckon I could understand about 80% of it. So thanks Sekiro for making me feel confident in my Japanese ability again. I do like the atmosphere of the samurai times and how kind of melancholic and brooding the backgrounds and the music themes are. But apart from that, I just really couldn't force myself to play the game any longer.
I know I'm kind of beating a dead horse here, but hear me out, man. You're fighting a mini-boss without locking onto it. You have no chance of beating him without locking on.
Just kept dying and dying and dying. Kept having to be sent back to the starting zone. Kept having to do the same thing over and over again, fighting the same enemies until I get to the boss, and then get 2 hit killed again, and then have to start all over again. It was just really frustrating, really annoying. I don't know why the main character is such a weakling that it takes only 2 hits or 3 hits to take him down, when it takes like 100 hits to take down an enemy. If I had to recommend some suggestions for the game to make it more fun, I would recommend that the sword hits, when they hit the enemy, it should be able to decapitate limbs. I want to see real-time physics in action like Chivalry. If my sword hits their leg, I want to see their bloody leg coming off.
I mean, you know what, that would be a cool mod, I'm not even gonna lie, like, it would be funny to see the limbs fly around. But the thing is, this isn't Ninja Gaiden, okay? Like, it would destroy the entire gameplay flow if you were to add something like that, because this is like a timing game of deflecting and attacking, just like taking turns, deflect, attack, deflect, attack. You're not meant to be chopping up limbs. No, but in all seriousness, if you want a game like Sekiro where you just chop up limbs, go play Ninja Gaiden. You'll like it, man.
And I want to be able to pick up their weapons. I want to be able to pick up any kind of weapons the enemy soldiers have, if it's a spear or an axe. Why do they all have boring samurai swords? Can't they have something else?
See, the thing is, the entire game is built around the samurai sword. The entire, like, set of skill trees are built around the samurai sword. So in order for the game to be able to let you pick up, like, different weapons, they would have to make entirely new skill trees for all the different weapons you could pick up.
So using my gaming scoring system, I would have to give it a, 1.2 out of 10.
Dude, there's no way this guy gave the game a 1.2 out of 10. I mean, is this guy forgetting the fact that this game literally won Game of the Year back in 2019? Like, this game was fucking praised. The only real flaw I can see with Sekiro is the fact that the game, like Bloodborne, is very short. But that's gonna do it for this video. If you think Sekiro's a fat steamy pile of shit, let me know. If you like it, let me know. If you think it's the greatest game ever made, let me know. And I'm out of here.
So using my gaming scoring system, I would have to give it a 1.2 out of 10.